Question for you.
Yes.
What would I do if I notice that there's something suspicious
Or sus.
on my credit report?
We'll go into what you do when fraud happens to you.
It's time for Q&A with the Credit Game.
As fraud is the #1 growing crime in Canada, we thought it would be good to outline some steps on what you should do if you're going through your report and you find an inquiry or an account that does not belong to you. So here's what you should do when fraud happens to you.
So step number 1, talk to your spouse, partner, or family to see if it is theirs.
Can you imagine why it would be the first step to talk to your spouse or partner or family?
Well, what if they took your credit card and they decided to do some shopping?
Exactly.
Without your knowledge, yeah.
So there's that, but also because sometimes the information, because of spouses, because you're in the same house, or because of the same last name, even with family, sometimes you're named after someone else in your family, or there's something similar. But either way, when you get those addresses that are the same, and sometimes there's previous joint accounts, or maybe you thought it was separate, but now it isn't. Maybe it's joint and you weren't really sure what's going on. Always best to have that conversation with your spouse or even family if you have a similar name, just in case those inquiries were mistakenly them. And then that way you know in the future that they could potentially, or their information or what they do could potentially show up on your credit report. Does that make sense?
Wait, so you're checking your bank statements, is what you're saying? Or you're checking your credit report?
So you should check your bank statements.
Oh, okay.
That's good. But I was referring more to, let's say an inquiry shows up and you think...
You mean an inquiry, like somebody just saying, like checking your credit?
Yeah.
Oh.
So let's say a bank or lender shows up on your credit report and you're not expecting it. So you're thinking that's automatically fraud, which it could be an error or something. But why is it showing up on there? You might want to talk to your spouse or partner to see if they did any inquiries. Maybe they did it in their own name and somehow the bank linked it to you as well, which they shouldn't. Or anyways, it's good to have a conversation about that. Does that make sense?
Is it a big deal if someone's checking your credit?
Yes.
Because it'll affect your credit score?
Not necessarily because it will lower your score a few
Okay.
points, but more importantly, if it's not your spouse or partner or not someone that you're consenting, then you could be a victim of fraud.
Am I a victim of fraud? Have you checked my credit report?
Have you checked your credit report?
No.
That's the key. Yes, I've checked your credit report many times, but you need to check your own to see what's going on there. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Woo, sideline. Yeah. All right, next.
Contact the lender or collection agency to confirm details. Sense?
Makes sense. So you can find the number to the collection agency or to the lender on the credit report. There's a tab that you can go in depending on what version of the report that you have. Or you can just simply Google or Yahoo or Bing it.
Oh my God.
It doesn't.
Does anyone use Bing?
Anyways, you can go in and check out what their contact information is and see, reach out to them and let them know that you didn't do that inquiry, what's going on. Sometimes they go by different names on the credit report than they do on the actual business side of things. And so you may have done the inquiry, but you didn't. You went to HSBC or to a department store, and they used a different name for that inquiry. So it's good to check out what exactly happened. And then if you didn't do the inquiry, then definitely let them know that that wasn't you and that this is a fraudulent account, which may be able to stop the fraud from happening before.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So if somebody checked your credit report and it's a hard hit and it was a fraud, does that mean that they can, like, because that's going to lower your credit score?
Yeah.
So will they increase your credit score or like do anything to bring back your credit to where it was?
Good question. So they should remove it off the report,
Yeah.
but a couple point lower or hit to your score is not really a big deal.
What if you're on cusp, like your credit?
So you can definitely ask them,
Oh,
and it technically they should remove it off because
Okay.
it wasn't you.
Yeah.
But that's not really a big deal in the grand. So if they don't, you can fight it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth going through the headache of fighting
Mm-hmm.
for one inquiry? Probably not. But the big main purpose is just knowing that someone out there is using your information without your knowledge, and because that can get expensive, and that's a big deal. All right, next.
File a police report.
Yes. A lot of times
This is getting interesting.
we stepped it up a notch. When there's some kind of fraud or something going on, or you know that it's fraud, someone else has done something with your name and applied for credit somewhere without your permission, a lot of the departments or companies will require you to get a police report and provide them the file number in order for the company to take it serious.
Okay.
It's pretty easy to call up and say, I didn't do that purchase. It's not mine. And so,
Do you think people do that?
oh yeah,
Oh,
I'm sure they do.
crazy.
And because there's a lot of protection with credit cards and because they make it so easy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of companies, when it's large amounts or when it's outstanding and serious, they want to make sure that it is official, and so they make you do a police report
Okay.
to help further the fraud process. All right.
Yep.
Next.
Take notes of who you talk to and when. Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine why that would be important? Why is this? This is not creepy. What?
Today at 9 a.m. I talked to.
Dear Diary. No, this is not Dear Diary. Well, technically it's a diary of...
It's my credit diary.
Yes. So cool. If diary keeping wasn't cool enough, credit diary.
And Christmas gift idea.
Marketing idea.
Oh,
Beautiful.
okay.
So, the reason why this is important is because a lot of times you talk to someone and they tell you something, and then you call a week later and it's no longer there.
Right.
So generally they won't give you their full name. They'll give you either generally an employee number.
Yeah.
And so write down the employee number, confirm when you called them, what was discussed, what was promised. Ideally, if they can give you something in writing, that's even better. So
Yeah, you're big into that.
yeah, an email or something confirming. But you want to take notes of that to keep the record, because what happens is if you have to escalate it, then you have that record and it makes the conversation sound much better in your, to swing your way.
Yeah.
When you can say, I talked to employee number blah, 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 this date, and this is what they told me. Now it's been over a week and they still haven't done anything. I have no correspondence, nothing resolved. And then I talked to Joe at this customer, and it just more official. Next.
Get confirmation in writing.
The reason why that's important is a lot of times they'll say, you're right, it is fraud, we'll take care of it.
But did they?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
And so what will happen is you really can't trust anything verbally. If it was fraud, they should provide something in writing to confirm. And even if they do fix it, so let's say they do fix Equifax and TransUnion and it's updated, the problem is that what happens in a year and a half when it comes back on the report.
Right.
Or they send it to some collection agency 2 years down the road and now it's showing up. You can go back to your credit journal.
Oh gosh.
And
Credit diary.
Diary.
That's what
Oh
it's
yes,
called.
right. Dear diary. Dear credit diary. It's much easier and quicker to get things done if you get official confirmation in writing saying, yes, this was fraud.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty easy to get corrected on Equifax and TransUnion because you have everything. So once you get something in writing and confirmed, the next step is to wait some time and then check both Equifax and TransUnion and make sure everything's updated. If it's not, then you need to file a dispute with both Equifax or TransUnion or wherever the error is still showing up. Get them to get it removed, provide them the documentation that you so conveniently got in the last step, and then keep on doing that until you get a response. If you have trouble, you can always reach out to me. This is what I do full time, not the credit diary, but disputing errors and fraud with Equifax and TransUnion. And my email is in the show notes. The links to the dispute forums and how to get copies of your free credit reports all in the notes and the more info and all that stuff. And that's it.
Perfect.